Here is a controversial idea. NRIs should not be buying vacant land in India, period. And by the end of the video, I'm going to give you 3 reasons as to why NRI should not buy vacant land in India. So, hi everyone, my name is Ramana Reddy and I'm a practicing lawyer in India. On this channel, I help you by simplifying complex legal concepts. For tips, tricks, and general legal information, make sure you hit the subscribe button below. So, what is the background for me to even make such a bold statement? In India, as all of you are aware, no doubt, there has been a gold rush in the real estate industry in the last 20-30 years, where land prices have skyrocketed and a lot of people have made a lot of money. A lot of people have had a lot of financial struggles and so on. But basically, land prices have shot up astronomically. Now, when there is such a gold rush, there are risks. And I think these risks just make it completely unviable for any NRI to buy vacant land in India. So what are these risks? So let's talk about the first risk. The first, and I think the biggest risk, is the risk of encroachment, is the risk of illegal encroachment into your property. So let's say that, so the typical situation is, there is an NRI who's worked hard, saved up all this money, he's come back to India, and now he goes around with a real estate agent, with friends, relatives, and he buys a piece of property. And he may be even smart enough to put up a boundary wall. He may build a small room, and he may take an electricity connection or water connection. And he's bought the property, so he has title to the property. Now, 6 months later, he comes back and he sees that the entire boundary wall has been demolished, the room has been demolished, and now there's some fancy apartments, some construction activity that's happening there. Now, what is he supposed to do? Now, in law, his remedy is to file a civil suit for declaration of title and for recovery of possession. Now, God forbid, if that property is in the outskirts of a particular city, then you will have to go to some district court in the outskirts, which is not a very fun place to be. Now, what else? You will have to file a police complaint, run around the police to say that, look, this particular person has demolished my boundary wall, and therefore, please, he's committed criminal trespass and so on. So please register an FIR. Then, if a building permission is granted, you approach the High Court and then you say, look, a building permission has been granted, so please cancel this building permission because he's building illegally on my land. And then obviously there's Indian jugaad, where you go to a politician and you try to say that, look, somebody is trying to build on my land. Can you please try to see what you can do and find out who this person is? And you go to the MLA, MP, MLC, whoever is the relevant person. And you have to do all this running around while so first you come back to India, you look at all this, you're shocked. Then you go to a lawyer and he tells you have to do these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things. And you are still, and I think you're in a greater shock once you hear all this. And then, okay, the second challenge is that you have to do all this remotely because, if you're working in the US or UK or wherever, Australia, wherever, Saudi, you get a limited number of leaves. So you may come here, you may meet a lawyer, and then you need to fly back. And you have to manage all this remotely. You need to manage a civil litigation remotely. You need to file a police complaint and manage that remotely. You need to file a writ in the High Court for cancellation of building permission, manage that remotely. And God forbid, if you involve a politician or some middleman, best of luck trying to work that remotely. And let's say that in the meanwhile, should something happen to you and your kids who are born and raised in the US, if they have to come down to a district court in the outskirts of a city, trust me, I don't think that's going to work out well for them or, for anybody in your family. And I say this because, time and again, I see NRIs who have this, with the increasing or with the depreciating rupee, they want to come and come and invest in real estate, which is fine. But don't buy vacant land because vacant land is fraught with risks. And I also say this because, if I am a trespasser in your land, it is extremely easy for me to go and obtain an injunction against you because the law is that even a trespasser cannot be evicted without following due process of law. So I can go file a case against you and say, look, this Mr. NRI had come and this is actually my land, and he's coming to trying to dispossess me. And I have some documents on which I'm relying on, which I have land in the same survey number, and so therefore this is my land. And the court will say, look, prima facie, he's in possession. You cannot resort to illegal means. You cannot, resort to self-help and try to just neck him out like that. So I'm going to give him an injunction, and you cannot, throw him out without following due process of law. Now, this sounds very nice on paper, but if the due process of law at 15, 20 years, then literally I don't think an NRI is prepared to spend that kind of time, to spend that kind of money, and really and just go through that stress, that helplessness that you would feel sitting halfway across the world trying to tackle a very local problem in India. Now, the common piece of misguided advice that I hear is, I've heard lawyers say, they've told NRIs that, look, what is your current salary? Your salary is what? $100,000 a month? A year, right? So you make 100K a year. This land is worth 4 times that. So take a leave for 6 months and just come here and pitch a tent and file a civil suit, run after the police, go after an MLA, run behind, do circles around the High Court, because it is worth it. Because even if you spend about a year doing this, you will still come out positively, at least in terms of monetary benefits. Now, this is easier said than done, because you have a life abroad, like you have a job there, you have a family there, and you're settled there. I don't think most NRIs are mentally prepared to drop all that and just come and stay in some lodge or some godforsaken place in the outskirts of an Indian city, filled with mosquitoes and potholes and whatnot, and you're trying to do all these things. Now, if you have the appetite for it, definitely go for it. But at least in my experience, most NRIs don't. So whenever NRIs come to me for a legal due diligence saying that they're looking for vacant land, at least as my duty, which I feel is my duty, I try to caution them and say, look, don't go for vacant land. Now, does that mean that there's no way that you can invest in the real estate market in India? No, I'm not saying that. You can definitely look at commercial property. You can look at flats. Because, again, this is not guaranteed, and you have to do your due diligence before buying these things also. And how to do your due diligence, make sure you click the link above, where I'll post on how to look at what documents to look at before you buy this property. But at least with the flat and commercial property, you can put it under lock and key. There are a bunch of people who are already there with you. You may have an association there. There's already a builder who is in your, who's also trying to protect your interests. So although it's not foolproof, but it is way, way, way more safer than buying vacant land. And so I think if you are looking to invest in real estate in India, definitely opt for a flat or a commercial property. And if you really, really are desperately looking to buy vacant land, I would suggest that you at least buy vacant land that that is within a boundary, where the developer has already put a compound wall, and it's not just your plot, but there are like hundreds of plots within there, and everything is properly mapped out and there's a proper layout. And at least that way, the risk of encroachment, of illegal encroachment, goes down dramatically. And I hate to break this to you, but there are people who target NRI properties, and you really don't want to be involved and just get into soup. So I would suggest that you stay away from definitely agricultural properties, definitely like open land, vacant land in the middle of nowhere. And although it may sound like a good deal, remember that the risk is not in the investment, it is in the investor. So as an investor, do you really have the wherewithal? Do you really have the resources to go and fight this litigation? I can tell you from experience, people who live in India, who live in the city, they struggle to protect their possession, which is like 100 kilometers away. And it is absolutely arrogant to think that you can sit halfway across the world and that you can literally run a remote litigation sitting there. So at least from my personal standpoint, I would not advise NRIs to buy vacant land in India because it's just fraught with risks. You may have title to it, like you may have a paper that is in your hand, but for that to translate to actual land and for that to translate to actual money, that is going to be very, very difficult. If you're thinking, okay, I'm going to buy land and I'm going to just convert all that money into a debit card that I'm able to like swipe in the US, then I hate to break it to you, but that is just some utopian bubble. And if you really want to get that debit card that you can use, then at least buy some commercial property, buy some rental property where the risk is much lesser. The rewards may be a little lesser, but I think you will sleep easy and you will at least still be able to participate in the real estate market in India. So those are my 2 cents. If you found this video helpful, make sure you hit the subscribe button below. Thank you for watching.